Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective, where today we are going to solve the mystery of what is going on with Drag Race UK. Another season of Drag Race UK has come and gone, and yet again, I'm left feeling underwhelmed. Also, side note, I'm getting over a cold, so sorry if I sound a little nasally and gross in this video, but it's fine. It was not COVID, so we are just happy about that. But Drag Race UK, for its first two seasons, was an absolute staple of the franchise. I mean, many consider UK2 to be among the best Drag Race seasons of all time, and there are a lot of them now, so that is quite an accomplishment. But after reaching such a high with UK2, the two seasons that have come after it have failed to meet those same standards. And fans are left feeling if UK2 is even worth keeping up with among the myriad of Drag Race franchises that are out now. I mean, Drag Race España, Drag Race Canada, Drag Race France, Drag Race Philippines, these are the seasons and franchises that have been getting much higher praise from fans than the last two seasons of Drag Race UK have. And with a lot more franchises announced for 2023, I think most fans are starting to finally realize it's going to soon become impossible to keep up with every single one. So they're going to have to start picking and choosing which to keep up with and which to drop. Drag Race UK seems to be dangerously close to getting dropped by some fans, myself included, so I wanted to highlight in this video where UK went wrong. After two back-to-back stellar seasons, how did we end up with two back-to-back duds? I've pinpointed some specific flaws that I think have led to the downfall, but to be honest, some of these flaws have been around the entire time. We're going to break down the history of Drag Race UK, chart the fall, and discuss how the upcoming fifth season can improve upon some of the faults of the last two seasons. So first, let's start at the beginning. Drag Race UK was the second international franchise for the show. Drag Race Thailand had already been out and been airing, but Drag Race UK was a big deal because RuPaul would still be the host, which of course brought a lot of viewers that had sat out of watching Drag Race Thailand or didn't even hear about Drag Race Thailand because it really wasn't featured that heavily by WOW. And with Drag Race UK airing on the new WOW Plus app, it made viewing a lot easier for fans outside of the UK, which was a frequent issue with Drag Race Thailand. Drag Race UK was initially announced on December 4th, 2018, with the premiere coming less than a year later on October 3rd, 2019. And that is just proof that time is an illusion, it's fake as fuck, because I would have 1000% told you it started airing in 2017 or something. But it really dropped a few months before the penetration blew up in 2020. Another big win for Drag Race UK was its panel of judges. Not only was RuPaul the main host, but she brought she brought Michelle Visage with her, who by now was most definitely a staple of the show. And for the other two main judges, Graham Norton and Alan Carr, to an American audience, and I'm assuming for a more international audience as well, it was also a major draw. As an American who knows fuck all about British television or culture outside of Great British Bake Off and Little Mix, I actually knew who both Alan Carr and Graham Norton were pretty well. I have watched every interview they did with Lady Gaga and Katy Perry back in 2010 100 times in middle school. So with so many familiar faces, the Drag Race stands were ready to pay attention. And boy, did Drag Race UK not disappoint. With an iconic cast, fun challenges that highlighted British humor, legitimately intense competition, and the great format that fans had already come to love, the first season of Drag Race UK was a runaway success. People talked about this season non-stop. And due to there being no other foreign franchises going on at the time, it had the entire fandom's full attention. Where now we really don't get breaks in between seasons, especially if you watch all of them. Back then, if it wasn't All-Stars time or like a main season time, you had months on end to wait for a new season of Drag Race. So Drag Race UK, I think, really scratched that itch that fans really needed towards the end of the year, and it was just like the moment. I remember the Team Viv versus the Team Davina of it all, the iconicness of waiting every week to see if Cheryl would get her badge, one of the greatest challenge moments of all time with Breakup Bye Bye. I mean, there was just so much to love with this season, but they would manage to top this less than 2 months after the first season ended with UK2, a top 5 season for most Drag Race fans, like I said. The cast. I mean, every single one of these queens had top 4 potential. This season just had that special spark. The cast felt like a united group, and one of the main factors, in my opinion, that sets apart a great season from a not-so-great season is cast unity. Does the cast feel like 12 individuals just all competing in the same season, or does it feel like a group of 12 drag queens having fun, building camaraderies and relationships and rivalries? And UK2 was the latter. There were friendships, enemies. We got so much insight into the dynamics of the queens. And on top of that, we were seeing such a high level of drag from the looks, the comedy, the performances. Everything was so elevated. You really fell in love with all of the queens, and the ones you didn't fall in love with, you loved to hate. It was just top-tier reality television. So when UK3 came around, those were some pretty damn big shoes to fill. And unfortunately, it just didn't. There really wasn't any cast unity. It felt like 12 individual queens competing on the same season. The level of challenge and performance prowess was kind of a step down from UK2, and it was filled with these random twists and staged gaggy moments to try and add drama and buzz, but it all just ended up feeling pretty rigged and forced. I legitimately stopped watching UK3 because of how annoyed it made me, and I only caught up after the season was over so that I could make the Riggery videos about it. And the only other season I had ever stopped watching like that was Drag Race Down Under Season 1. So then we have UK4, which comes along this year, and there's a really exciting cast. And with all of the talk about UK3 and how people really just didn't like it, I was hopeful that production would see where they went wrong on that season and make the necessary adjustments to get the show back on the level of UK1 and UK2. And while they definitely course corrected, it was just a little bit too much. UK4 was like sterilized Drag Race. Everyone was just running through the motions on autopilot. The joy and the fun and the camp of seasons 1 and 2 was gone. The cast felt like individuals in a room, not the united cast. It was boring. And that's where we're going to get to the first problem that I want to highlight. I'm going to call it Goldilocks syndrome. Seasons 1 and 2 of UK managed to get it just right when it came to the entertainment. But the last 2 seasons have been a bit off. UK3 was too twist-happy, UK4 was too reserved. The funny thing is, I say that, but UK1 didn't have any twist or gaggy moment. It was very by the numbers when it comes to Drag Race, kind of like UK4 was. But the difference was, it didn't need all the fluff to bring the entertainment, because the queens themselves were the ones bringing it. And not saying the UK4 girls weren't entertaining, just the way the season was edited really didn't leave much room for us to get to know any of them super well. UK2 actually did have some gaggy moments because of Veronica's disqualification. They had to have the queens vote an eliminated girl back in. They had a double Shantae at the final 4. Ginny Lemon walked out of a lip sync, but this was spread out over 9 episodes, so it really didn't feel like anything crazy. Now on UK3, they had a top 2 and a bottom 2 episode, a disqualification, an episode with no winners, an episode with a double Shantae, an episode with a double Sachet, an episode with another top 2 and a double Shantae, and an episode with no elimination. Out of the 10 episodes on the season, only 5 of them followed the regular format, which is insane. That's half the season just filled with twists. And it made every twist feel more and more forced and more tired. Because, like, why are we doing all of this? So while I enjoyed the fact that UK4 did hold back when it came to forcing gaggy moments, the season was so by the numbers, and then with the cast not being as dynamic on screen together as other seasons, it left the season feeling bland. So you're probably sitting here saying, okay, Derek, you are a greedy top. But I'm going to get even greedier because the next problem I want to discuss is the favoritism of the queens. Now, every season of Drag Race has production favorites, and there's nothing new about that, but the production crew on UK, I think, has a tougher time determining which queens should get the favoritism. We're going to make some parallels between UK and US because I think the US seasons do a much better job at this. On seasons 11, 12, 13, and 14, the last 4 US seasons we're going to compare to the first 4 of UK. The queens on the US who were pretty clearly production favorites and got pushed a little bit because of it, I would say the standout ones from US are Silky Nutmeg Ganache, Vanessa Vanjie Mateo, Gigi Good, Sherry Pie, Gottmik, and Georges. Now, the one thing they all have in common is they make great TV. Silky was a part of many of her season's main rivalries and storylines. Vanjie was a walking soundbite and was a part of the first romance on Drag Race. Gigi and Sherry allegedly had the season's main rivalry and storyline, which of course we saw had to get cut from the final edit, but they were the ones there making the good TV. Gottmik was such a huge internet star and kind of the confessional queen of her season. And then you have Georges, who was a lip-sync assassin who was fun to watch in the workroom. It makes sense why all of these queens would be pushed a little bit, since they make great TV, and keeping them around will lead to better episodes. On the UK, I think the girls with the most favoritism are Bag of Chips, Ellie Diamond, Krystal Versace, Scarlett Harlett, and then Jonbers Blonde on UK4. And outside of Baga and Scarlett, most of these queens weren't bringing the most entertaining reality television. Ellie had one storyline at the end of the season where she sabotaged Ahura and Lawrence, and otherwise she was just kind of there as Lawrence's friend in the edit. Krystal was seen as like the young, talented queen, but after the second episode, she really didn't bring a ton of personal moments or like fun moments or dramatic moments on the season. And Jonbers really didn't even matter in the edit until the very end of the season when there's less queens to focus on, so of course she's going to get more screen time. Even a queen like Sister Sister, who I don't think got a ton of riggery in her favor outside of the first episode, could have feasibly gone home in episode 1 if she was in the bottom with Bimini instead of Joe. And really, what did Sister Sister bring to the season until that storyline with Ahura? Now, no one cares about riggery if it's benefiting their favorites. No one was upset that Gottmik didn't get bottom 2 in the Discomentary Challenge because she was fun TV and she slayed the rest of the season. But if you're going to rig something, it should be either to, 1, make better TV, whether that be put 2 people in the bottom who have a storyline, save someone who makes good TV, things like that. Or to cause drama, like keeping Aiden out of the bottom in the ball. And, like, side note, I'm talking about these queens as characters on a reality show because, to be real, that is how the producers see them. They want to see the queens that make the best TV, and that's how I'm talking about them. But obviously, these are real people. They aren't just, like, playing a character on television. This is who they really are. I just wanted to point that out. On UK, it seems like they pick people that they like and don't necessarily make the rigging decisions that make better TV. It's just to keep the people that they like around. On the opposite end, the queens they actively rig against are usually the fan favorites or the queens bringing something unique to the competition or the ones that are just fun to watch. Looking at Drag Race US again, the queens from the last 4 seasons who have been rigged against are Sugar Cane Widow Von Du, Tina Burner, Tamisha Iman, and Deja Skye. Well, one, it's not lost on me that most of these are queens of color, but most of these queens didn't have like a strong narrative or at least a narrative tie to the season, or were bringing drama or like crazy entertaining television. Suga was the mother figure of season 11, but at the final 7, where every other queen was intertwined in storylines involving rivalries or romance, she was the odd woman out. And then the other odd woman out was Nina West, and she goes right after her. Widow Von Du had a strong start, but had started losing steam midway. She wasn't involved in any of the drama or any of the storylines, so if you're not going to be winning challenges either, you gotta go. Tina Burner had an interesting storyline potentially with Rosé and their rivalry, but when Rosé didn't play ball, go watch Jack Fed's new video on Rosé for more tea on that situation. It's a great video. Tina then becomes expendable. Tamisha Iman was put in the bottom over Gottmik so that her rivalry with Candy could be used for a lip sync battle. And then Deja did consistently well in season 14, but also was seen as like the mother figure who wasn't going to be starting arguments or fights, and we didn't see any strong ties to the other girls, so when you're at that tail end of a season like that, you gotta go. Seeing these queens get taken out too soon hurts because they're such kind souls, but at the same time, you can see why production did it in order to make better TV moving forward. Now, in the UK, the queens who were rigged against by production were Cheryl Hole, Tayce, Ahura, Joe Black, Charity Kase, Choriza May, River Medway, LaPhil, Baby, and Dakota Schiffer. Yes, says a lot. Again, especially for the UK, which has a huge problem with representation, specifically with race, that's a high number of queens of color, especially when your like ratio of white queens to queens of color is like already off to begin with. And for almost all of these queens, they were the ones bringing the good TV. Tayce and Ahura and Baby, or they were the audience favorite, like Cheryl or Choriza or River, LaPhil and Dakota. Or they were bringing something new and exciting to the competition, like Charity and Joe. Production on UK does not have a good perception of who audiences are going to be attached to, because not a single one of the queens I mentioned earlier as being production favorites on UK turned out to be an audience favorite. And because there's no synergy there, all of the riggery just seems worse, because it's never benefiting your favorites. It's benefiting people you don't like to watch as much as these other queens. So watching your favorite contestants get unfairly treated over and over and over again kind of makes the show hard to watch. On UK3, my favorites on that season were Choriza, Victoria, River, and Charity. And well, you can see why I didn't enjoy that season at all. And this leads me into my next problem. The top 3 or 4 seems to be much more predetermined than in the US. Now, in the US, they definitely are guilty of this too. I definitely think season 13's top 4 was planned from like day 0, day -40. But looking at season 11, someone like Akira, who fully earned her way there, and like taking a look at how many huge names were on this cast, I don't believe that someone like Evie or Akira were planned to be there from the start. I think that production saw what they were delivering and said, you know what, this is someone we definitely would not mind to see make the final 4. Even on season 12, like Gigi and Sherry, sure, but Krystal and Jada definitely felt like the judges fell in love with them over the course of the season, and they earned their way there. Season 14, I could see people like Angeria and Willow for sure being considered early on, but like Lady Camden and Diabetes fully had to fight their way to get to that final 5. But if you look at every top 4 on Drag Race UK, or top 3, it feels like every decision made on the season was to ensure that their top 4 that they wanted got there. UK1, Baga and Davina and Viv, they're the 3 biggest names on the cast. They literally rigged Cheryl out at the top 4 just so that they could have the top 3 that they wanted there. A very obvious final 3, but at the end of the day, it did feel earned. UK2, I think Bimini earned her spot after her glow-up post-break. But like Ellie Diamond and Lawrence Chaney specifically felt like they were going to be there no matter what. UK3, Need I say anything more? And then UK4, where Cheddar was the biggest name, Peppa was the fashion queen, Jonbers was the underdog that they had pushed, and Danny had slayed the competition since day one. It really just feels like they don't allow for the narratives of queens who do unexpectedly well to ever get their way in the end. It's always just who they envision, and it makes the last 2 seasons especially feel like there's no intense competition going on because most of the queens who could have brought some kind of competitive edge to the end game of a season were all taken out way too early. Speaking of competition, let's talk about the challenges. In 4 seasons, there have only ever been 11 types of challenges, and only 2 of them were unique to that season, with Dragathon being a very kind of unique style rusical, and then the Ugly Ball completely changing how balls can go on Drag Race. If we look at seasons 11 to 14 of US, there are 14 different types of challenges that repeat, and then 8 challenges that are totally unique. And you can say, Derek, well, there's less episodes in UK. And I would say yes. But even with 10 to 8 episode seasons, why are there 5 challenges that have appeared on every season and then 2 more that have appeared on the last 2 seasons? That's 7 out of 9 episodes that are the same every single year for the past 3 years. The reason I'm so bored watching UK is because it's the same challenges every single season, just tweaked with a new concept, like a rusical, or a different category like in the ball. Drag Race UK literally just goes through the motions when it comes to challenges, and I don't know if they have to keep their budget lower than they do in the US because of the issues with the BBC, and they can't make different types of sets and things like that allow for a broader scale of challenges, but it also just makes the competition boring if these queens know exactly what they're going to have to do when they get there. Throwing outside of the norm challenges can sometimes deliver amazing results because the queens have to think on their feet, and also because we have nothing else to compare it to. Great examples are the Super Teases in season 14, or the Discomentary and the Draga Cadabra challenges. But going along with the challenges also come the lazy finales. Every single finale of Drag Race UK has been the same standard finale that we've seen on a ton of different franchises, a ton of different international seasons, as well as the US All-Stars. They do the remix, they do the runway, there's a final lip sync, and they crown a winner. Drag Race US has also run into this problem with the lip sync for the crown becoming stale, so instead they instated a new format for the season 14 finale, and it worked great. I wish Drag Race UK would do something like that, just something to change the expectations so it's not just the same cut and paste formula for every single season. But I saved the best for last. The number one reason why I think Drag Race UK is failing in these last few seasons is with the storytelling. I've touched on this before, but I think a great season of Drag Race almost always has to have the queens' interactions at the forefront of the season. Think All-Stars 2, Season 6, Season 12, Season 14. These were relationships we cared about, rivalries that we loved that were at the forefront of the season. We weren't just tuning in to see the challenge or the runway or the lip sync. We were tuning in to see what the queens were going to be doing in the workroom. How were the relationships going to be evolving? What was this friendship going to look like? What was this rivalry going to look like? That is what makes a great season of Drag Race. Looking at UK1, we have the rivalry between Vivian and Davina, the friendship between Blue and Cheryl, Baga and Viv's friendship. UK2, we have the flirtmans with Taste and Ahura, whether they want to admit it or not, the friendship between Lawrence and Ellie, the rivalry between Ahura and Ellie, and Ahura and Tia, the friendships between Tia and Veronica. But on UK3 and 4, these dynamics just aren't as present. UK3, we definitely see a friendship between Charity and Kitty, but they don't really add much to the season. UK4 has the friendship between Danny and Pixie, but everyone else is just kind of in the room together. And for the UK, there really are no excuses because the casting pool all exists in such a smaller area than in the US. And, like, the US has no issue showing all the dynamics that exist on the season. UK, these girls all know each other. And I'm wondering if they don't want the audience knowing that. But, like, Ella Vidae literally said, oh yeah, on UK3 I was friends with basically every single person. Show us that. Like, show us that. And I'm wondering if these last 2 seasons, if that was the case, and they just didn't want the audience to know, like, hey, these girls all know each other. They're all best friends. Because it's more interesting, I guess, and it's more dynamic, I guess, to see, oh, how do these strangers come together and, you know, forge a friendship or forge a rivalry. But if the case is that they're all friends, then show us they're all friends, because it's going to be much more interesting than hiding half of the relationships that exist on a season. I genuinely think UK2 really is that sweet spot where it delivered on all aspects that make a great season. It had 3 different challenges that we haven't seen in the year prior. It showed us lots of dynamics between the cast and gave us so many iconic moments in the workroom. It was rigged, but it allowed for queens like Tayce and Ahura, who definitely weren't production favorites, to still make it very far. And even if I do think the last 2 episodes are a bit of a drop-off, most of the season is absolutely top tier. If I had to give the producers any advice for season 5, give us something that feels more organic and less manufactured. It feels like you're just going through the motions, so shake up the formula. Cast some unexpected queens and see what they can do. Allow for underdogs to emerge and succeed. Give us fun new challenges. I do believe that this series can match the success that it has hit in the past. I just think the people steering the car need to slow down, check the map, and see where they're going so that they can reach the correct destination. And that is what I think is the problem with Drag Race UK. Let me know in the comments below what you agree with, what you disagree with. I definitely think UK3 and UK4 have its fans. So if you are a fan of those seasons, why? That sounded shady. Bitch, why? No, I'm kidding. Just like, I just want to hear different perspectives. So if you liked those seasons, what about those seasons drew you in? Because I don't see it, but just because I don't see it doesn't mean that you can't. I'm very excited for season 15 to get started. I'm very excited for 2023 to get started. It will be, I think, the 3rd year of this channel being like in full swing. So I'm just very grateful. I'm very just happy with where we're at. Thank you again for 50K. That's crazy to think about. And I just want to see 2023 as a year of growth in myself, in the channel, in Drag Race. I am just very excited. So thank you for being here for this journey. If you're not, subscribe so that you can see everywhere that we're going in this next year. I would very much appreciate it. And that's all I have for today. Here are the links to all of my social medias. Thank you to all of my patrons. Happy holidays. I'm going to make more videos before the holidays, but I'll just say it now because for me, it is full holiday in swing. Christmas shopping, party planning, all of it, wrapping. We are fully immersed in the holidays, so I hope yours is as fun and chaotic as mine. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.